So good morning, students. In the continuation of your this second chapter, microorganisms, friends and foe, we had discussed about the different uses of the microorganisms as well as some of the diseases that is caused by microorganisms, like disease causing microorganisms in humans, disease causing microorganisms in different other animals and plants. These things we had discussed. The same continuation today we will discuss about is food poisoning. So what is food poisoning? Food poisoning is the disease in which the food acts like this poison. When this food is spoiled by the microorganism, then this condition is called as food poisoning. So food poisoning is due to the consumption of the food spoiled by the microorganism. When we consume this type of food that is spoiled by the microorganisms, then it creates different problems in our body, and this condition is called as this food poisoning. If the food is not preserved properly, it leads to poisoning. Microorganisms like bacteria and fungi, these two groups of the microorganisms are responsible for this poisoning of the food. Okay, so when we consume this type of food, then we get sick due to the consumption of this spoiled food, and this condition is called as food poisoning. Like this poisonous foods causing vomiting, serious illness and even death. So it is very harmful condition for us if we are going to consume this food spoiled by the microorganism. That is why this food should be properly preserved, so that there will be no growth of the microorganism and the food can be consumed. Okay, so there are certain questions, that is oral questions, on the basis of these topics that we had discussed. The first question is who discovered the antibiotic penicillin? So answer is Alexander Fleming. Alexander Fleming, who discovered the antibiotic penicillin. Okay, the next question is which vaccine is given to children orally to protect against the disease at the age of 1.5, 2.5 and 3.5 months? So it is very common thing that you are all aware. You have also taken this type vaccine. It is called this oral polio vaccine, or it is also known as this OPV, oral polio vaccine. Okay, the answer is OPV, or oral polio vaccine. The next question is which microorganism cause the foot and mouth disease in cattle? The answer is it is virus. Virus causes foot and mouth disease in cattle. Next is name two diseases spread by house flies. So disease that are spread by this house flies is cholera and typhoid. It is the cholera and typhoid. These two diseases are spread through house flies. Okay friends, these are the oral questions that are given here. Now the next is that is about food preservation. It is very important thing, because we had just discussed if we are not going to preserve the food properly, and when we consume this food, then this food is spoiled. Then this food is spoiled by microorganisms. Okay, and this spoiled food that is spoiled by microorganisms, then when we consume, it will cause this problem that is called as this food poisoning. Okay, so to avoid this condition of this food poisoning, we should to preserve the food properly. Okay, so that is why it is required this food preservation. Okay, so when we are not going to preserve this food properly, then it produces foul smell. In other words, the food gets spoiled, become unfit for consumption. Spoil of cooked food takes place because of the action of microorganisms like bacteria and fungi. So fungi and bacteria These two are the groups of the microorganisms that are responsible for this spoilage of food. So to avoid this food from being spoiled, it should be properly preserved. So how we will get to know that this food is spoiled or it is affected by the microorganisms? There are certain symptoms, that is emit bad or foul smell. This is a very common thing. We also experience these things in our daily life. Okay, mainly in the summers, because the temperature is less, sorry, it is more, and this is the favorable condition of the growth of the microorganisms. So when we do not store in the refrigerator, this food start to produce this foul or bad smell. Taste is change. It taste also change. Nutritional value is affected and change in the colors. So these are the different symptoms. On the basis of that, we can say that the food is spoiled. Okay. So to avoid these things, to avoid this, the food preservation is required. Why it is required? Because to reduce the wastage of food. Okay. To reduce the wastage of the food preservation is required. Increase the storage period of the food stuff, so that our food can not spoil for a longer period and it is able to consume. Then nutritive value retained for a longer period. If we are preserving this food at a proper manner, so its nutritive value is also retained for a longer period, and the food is available in a distant places during off season. So these are the reasons for what this food preservation is done. Now there are certain methods by which the food can be preserved. By drying, by sun drying. This is very common method. The sun drying, it is very economical and very easy method of this removal of food, because drying in this sunlight, removal of the water from the food materials like leaves, cauliflower and fruit is dehydration. It is called this dehydration, removal of water, and it is done with the help of this sun. Sun drying is generally used in the case of vegetables like these spinach, cauliflower and methi leaves. Okay. Then second is by heating. You have seen this milk, very common thing. When milkman gives us milk, it is boiled, it is heated for a long time, so that it can, this boiling heating kills the germs. Okay. Then by smoking is used for this dehydrating food items like meat, fish and their products. Okay. Then by salting and sugar. Okay. This fruits, vegetables are commonly preserved by this salt or sugar. The food items made up into like this jams, jellies and pickles, you have seen in this, in like jams and sugar is used, pickles, this salt is used, salting is used to preserve the raw mangoes. Like it is very common thing also in our homes. In case of meat, fishes, salt is used for the preservation, because it dehydrates or kill the cells of the microorganisms, so that our food is preserved for a longer time. Okay. Next is by oil, vinegar and spices. This food is preserved. Okay. And the very common is by refrigerating and freezing. This is very common because you have seen that in our home there is refrigerator. We keep our cooked food or uncooked food in this refrigerator and it is preserved for a long duration. Okay. After that, this pasteurization, it is very important thing, that is the pasteurization. It is discovered by the French scientist Louis Pasteur. Okay. Because of that its name is known as this pasteurization. So what is done in this pasteurization? First, it is heated about 70 degrees Celsius for 50 to 30 seconds to kill the bacteria. Next, it is called this rapid chilling, because it is cooled very fast to prevent the bacteria from growing. First, we have to kill the bacteria by boiling it at the 70 degrees Celsius, and to prevent the further growth of the bacteria, it is chilled. It is finally stored at low temperature. This method is called as pasteurization. Pasteurization kills the bacteria in milk and does not affect its flavor. So two things are important. First is that it is the boiling is done, and after this boiling, its rapid chilling is done. This method is of this combination of two is the pasteurization, and then by proper storage and packing. So you have seen the different food items. It is properly stored and packed. Packed food items. It is sold in our shops. So by doing this, if it is properly stored and packed, then it also prevent the food from the spoil. Okay. So students, these are the different methods of how the food can be preserved, and this is important for to prevent the